Once the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi with his two grandchildren, al-Imaman, al-Hasanain, Sayyiday Shababi Ahl al-Jannah, salawatullah wa salamu alayhim ajma'een. And the Prophet was kissing his two young grandchildren. You know what the hadith says? A man came up to him and was baffled. He said, Ya Rasulullah, you kiss your children? You kiss your grandchildren? What is this? All my life I've never kissed my children. What are you doing? They were genuinely shocked. They'd never seen such compassion. It was normal for them to have harshness on their children, such that their children grew up with harshness. You will know, and this month is anti-domestic violence month. Yeah? It's Black History Month. It's also anti-domestic violence month. You know that when a child has domestic violence upon them, you imagine because they've been abused, they won't want to carry it on to their own wife or their own children. It's actually the opposite. Statistically, often, they will end up carrying on those abuses themselves. The Quraysh used to be so harsh with their children, of course they carried it on to their own family units, because they didn't know anything other than this. Ya Rasulullah, you're kissing your children? Really? Now, you know what the hadith says, another hadith? That the children of Medina, because this was the first time they'd been treated with compassion and love and mercy, they used to love when the Prophet was around. You know what they used to do? The Prophet would walk in the streets. The hadith says the children would come up to him and say, Ya Rasulullah, will you play with us? Think about this. This is the Prophet. He has a billion things to do. He has his worship. He has revelation. He's the head of a state. He's a father. He's a husband. You know what he used to do? He used to sit and play with the children. The hadith says of the Prophet, when you have children, act childlike. You all know this as parents. But they didn't do that. He had to tell them this. The Prophet used to be in the streets. You know what he would do? He would play with the children. You know what the hadith says? He used to play with them for so long, his other duties were getting late. He used to say to them, do you mind if I go now? You know what they used to say to him? Ya Rasulullah, no, we don't let you go. We want you to carry on playing with us. This is hadith. You know what happens? He actually called Bilal. He said, Bilal, can you come here? Can you get this and this from my house? So Bilal went off. Rasulullah is playing with the children on the streets. Bilal comes back. You know what he comes back with? He comes back with some walnuts. Yeah? Think about it in our time. He comes back with some Ferrero Rochers. Yeah? He comes back. Bilal passes him the walnuts, the fruit and nut, and he gives it to the children. He says, if I give you this, will you let me go now? And you know children, you give them chocolate, they'll do anything. They said yes. So they took the walnuts. You know what happened? The hadith says, the Prophet, as he's walking, he jokes quietly to Bilal. He says, you know, they sold me for even less than Yusuf alayhi salam was sold for. In one hadith, Prophet is a statesman, he's acting like a kid, he's even got a sense of humor. Can you even see what he was like with these people? Can you imagine what he was like?